Yo, what's up? Welcome to the video. Today I'm going to take you through my graduate recruitment journey. So after university, me applying for jobs, and that journey I had to go through to secure myself my top choice offer. I think the journey will shock you. It was really long. It was a hard fought battle to get myself on my scheme. So I think there's a lot of value in sharing that journey so you guys can get inspired, but also most importantly, pick up tips at each stage along the process that I'm going to share in this video. I'm certainly not one of them people, and you'll probably know them people who seem to have a top choice, they apply and they get the offer pretty much no problem. I'm not one of them people. I had to really fight for my place, so that's the journey that I'm going to share right now. So I'm a university graduate, biology graduate, and I was applying for business and commercial graduate schemes. Because I did a biology degree, I wanted to work in energy, in pharmaceuticals, or in FMCG, fast moving customer goods. And that's probably my first bit of advice is really, even before they open, make sure you're ready, make sure you know when they do open, and then have a few companies you're applying to just to hedge your bets. And you're going to understand as I tell my story why hedging your bets is really, really important. My first application was for Nestle on their sales and marketing scheme. I did the initial application and they sent alongside that numerical reasoning test. This is simple math. And as a biology graduate, as a science grad, I thought I'd absolutely breeze this. It was 30 questions over 30 minutes, did the test, got the results, and I'd failed. First stage, step one on my first application, first hurdle, I'd actually failed. So this is when I learned another lesson where I can't underestimate any stage of the process. I've really got to put in time to treat grad recruitment as a skill that I can learn. If you can recognize that you're probably going to have to be better at applying for jobs than you will be at doing the job at the moment. And I think that's just the unfortunate reality that people in my generation face, is that you don't have the experience, you don't have the skills, but it's so competitive. You're really going to have to be good at interviews, assessment centers, and applications. And if you can recognize that early, it'll put you way ahead of the competition. So I set out on a bit of a mission to become a grad recruitment pro. I read a ton of books, I practiced a ton online, and I just wanted to make sure that I really was hot on every stage of the process. So my next application was Mars. So I passed the initial application, passed the tests, and then I got invited to a telephone interview. So I prepared an absolute ton. First question he asked me was, tell me about yourself. And I think this was just an icebreaker question, but I read my well-scripted answer word for word for about 5 minutes. What he responded with was, wow, that sounded rehearsed. That was a blow to me. That really took me back, and that set the tone for the interview. It went absolutely awful. It was the most awkward interview I've ever had. He was absolutely grilling me, and I got an instant rejection after that phone call. And what I learned here was, one, they're not looking for the finished package. And he says, well, we're not really looking for someone who's an absolute professional who's been there, done that. They're looking for someone who they can mold to their ways of working. They're just really looking for someone who's eager to learn, willing to learn, and fits their culture, their values and behaviors. And two, yes, it's good to rehearse, but you don't want to be so scripted it sounds like you're just reading from a sheet, which is what I was doing in reality. Prepare, but make sure you do bring your authentic self to the interview. A few more applications later, and we go to Coca Cola, which is an assessment center in Uxbridge. I'd done the application, I'd done the test, I'd passed the interview, and now we're at the assessment center. So they'll take you around the office, they'll give you your nice products, they'll show you what a great company it is. You do, on the day, 3 to 4 different exercises, a combination of solo activities and group exercises. I also had another interview on the day. It's really tough because all you're thinking is, please, 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 give me a job offer. But you really need to try and understand whether it's a company you want to work for, whether you're excited about the products, what kind of projects, what direction they're going in, and the culture and the feel of the office. And I guess also the location as well. Kind of have the mindset, this is a two-way streak. It's a two-way conversation. So I went through the assessment center. I thought I performed pretty solidly. I got the phone call the next day, and they rejected my application. They said they're not going to offer me a place. From there, the conversation could have ended, but I made sure that I got feedback on exactly where I fell down. It came across that I performed pretty solidly on all the stages except one, which was the case study. And that's probably what I suspected. It was about 20 different emails you get given on paper, and you have to answer accordingly to each email. I hadn't actually seen a task like this before and it just took me back, so I'd failed on that stage. So that's what I would probably recommend. You get feedback at each stage. I made sure I am never ever going to fail on a solo activity, on a case study again. Jump forward to another application, and this time it's for Unilever. So I passed all the stages and I'd been invited to the assessment day. This one started the night before, where you meet the other candidates, and there was 4 other candidates. It was in Leatherhead and in one of their offices, and this office is amazing. It has a salon in the back of the reception to test out Tresemme, Tony and Guy products. It has a bar with free Ben & Jerry's ice cream, no joke. This is a really cool office. I really was excited about this one. It was 3 activities. I think it was 2 group and 1 solo presentation. And I think I performed pretty solidly. But I got the call the next day, and we can't offer you a place on this scheme. And this one really took me back. This was proper crisis mode. It was now February, and I'd been applying for graduate schemes solidly for 6 months, and I was still no further ahead. I had no offer. Yes, I'd learned a lot, but ultimately the result of getting a graduate scheme, getting an offer, I didn't have it. So this was my darkest hour. This was where I really started reflecting whether a graduate scheme was right for me. But what I made sure to do was, again, get that feedback, and we spent 30 minutes on the call understanding what I did wrong. And it transpired that I performed really solidly throughout the whole application, but there was one other thing that I hadn't done, and that was I hadn't shown my analytical side. In the group exercises, I was really good. I grabbed the pen, I went on the whiteboard, I wrote our objectives down, and I was really good at leading the group. And they said after 5 minutes, we could tick the box of leadership potential. We wanted you to sit down and go do the maths, show us that you can be analytical as well. And because for that 40-minute exercise, you were stood up pretty much for the whole time, you weren't able to actually showcase your analytical skills. So we couldn't quite give it to you. Again, I took that feedback. I made sure I would never make that mistake again. But this was proper crisis mode. It was February, time was running out, and I really needed to get a scheme. Next application, this was my top choice. This is what it had been leading up to. This is the one that all the way, a year before I started applying, this was the one I really wanted. I passed all the stages and I was at the assessment day. This was in middle of March. 3 exercises over a full working day, 8 different candidates, 2 group exercises and 1 presentation. I left thinking that I performed pretty solid, and even if I didn't get given an offer, I can hold my head up high and think I'd given my best. The day after, I got a phone call, and they do drag this out a little bit X Factor style. I said, I think I did pretty well. And she said, well, we didn't think you did good. We thought you did great, and we would love to offer you a place on the graduate scheme. And at this point, I was absolutely over the moon. I screamed, saying yes. I even had to say, look, just tell me again. That wasn't very professional. She said, you've been offered the scheme. I said, thank you very much for the opportunity. But I was over the moon. I was so excited to finally, after 7 months, receive my offer. And for me, so fortunate it was my top choice. And I will say that this scheme that I now work for today, and I've completed, and 4 years later, I'm still working at that same company, big multinational energy company. It was paid so much better than the other schemes I got rejected from. It sounded so much better, and it ended up being so much better for me. It really fit what I wanted. So this is why hedging your bets is really important. Not only did I have a lot of opportunities to practice along the way, leading me up to my top choice, even after, if I did fail this, which I must admit I did walk out pretty confident, but if I had failed this, I had GSK, National Grid and ABF, which is a food company. I had assessment days lined up. So that did decrease the pressure. I still had a couple of last chances. So for the next year, I was riding an absolute high. The first 6 months working for this company, I was over the moon, super excited, and I was really fortunate that I got my top choice. But the reason I wanted to tell this story was that it might appear that a top performer, really prestigious graduate scheme, just applies for one, gets it, and they can just walk into anything. And I wanted to share this journey because that certainly wasn't the case for me. I had to really fight for my place, particularly if you reach high. These were the top performing, top 20, maybe even top 10. If you're gonna aim really high, at least top 100, you're gonna have to really work for it. And that's why I wanted to share this journey, that one, you should reach high, but if you're gonna reach high, make sure you put in the work to practice, and it can be done. I'm just an ordinary, normal dude, normal degree, normal uni, normal grades, but just because I was tenacious enough, I was bold enough to set that vision, go out on that journey, and make sure that every setback I got, I just made sure I learnt from it, and it didn't stop me from pursuing what ultimately was my dream job. If you're applying for graduate schemes this year, best of luck. If you do have any questions, please comment them below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, consider subscribing to the channel, and thank you very much, and best of luck. Boom.